Welcome back to the Birdhouse Dynasty show on this free agent freak show of a Monday. Let's get you started off right into some trades, all right? We're going to start you off with the Pacheco for 205 deal I talked about earlier. This one had Frosties getting Pacheco and Fossboss getting the 205. Now it's a 10-team Superflex tight end premium start 10 league, so it's very shallow. In this format, I do prefer getting Isaiah Pacheco. He was one of the running backs that survived free agency, as I did expect. So when this deal went down about a week or two ago, I do believe that Pacheco was the side that I would prefer in this deal. The 205 is not a bad draft pick in a 10-team league. It's the 15th overall pick. He can either get the top running back on the board, maybe, definitely a decent receiver in this loaded draft of receivers. But at the same time, if you look at the startup values of these two, I'm in the middle of a 12-team Superflex Dynasty Best Ball League where we start 12 weekly, and Pacheco went at the 6-3 pick, and the 205 went at the 10-10. Now, the 205 in a 12-teamer is not as valuable as the 205 in a 10-team league, but if I do remember, the 203, which would be the 15th overall pick, went somewhere around the 9th round. So either way, you're still looking at least a 3-round difference in startup value between Pacheco and the 205 here. So I'm definitely leaning the Pacheco side on this one. And even though he's a running back, it still was a good time to deal for him, in my opinion, because I did not see Pacheco as one whose job was in jeopardy. Now, we'll get into many running backs whose jobs obviously were or have been in jeopardy later. Before that, I want to talk about another deal that Frosty's pulled off in the same league. He did this one with Fantasy Reaper, and in this deal, Frosty's sold the 101 for a 25 first, 26 first, and a 25 second. Now, Frosty's is in the middle of a rebuild, and even though he did go and get a running back in Pacheco, which normally you don't really do in a rebuild, but he had so many picks. He had 5 firsts, 4 seconds, so he is really loaded up and had the potential to turn this right around into a contender. Now, dealing the 101, which, if I go look at the best ball values in the draft that we're doing right now, a startup, the 101 went at the 13th overall pick. So basically, he was dealing the 13th overall valued asset in Dynasty for a random 25 first, random 26 first, and a 25 second. Just don't see this as the way you want to capitalize on all the hard work he put into getting the 101. If you're going to sell the 101, you want to be getting a premier asset or getting a really good asset plus a first. Just multiple assets is good, but they're all draft picks. If you're going to be selling the 101, first of all, March is not really the ideal time to do so. We all know that draft picks values increase as we get closer to the draft, right? Especially the first pick overall. So this was not a good deal for Frosties. I'm sorry that he did this one. I really feel kind of bad for him. But it's not like he still is getting 2 firsts out of it and a second, so maybe one of those firsts will happen to be a top 3 pick, and then this deal won't be so bad. It's just a matter of when when you're dealing the 101, unless you are just down to the 101 only and you're in a major rebuild, then I can see just trading it for draft picks possibly. But otherwise, I want to be getting a top-notch player, all right? We're already talking Caleb Williams or Marvin Harrison as easily a top 20 dynasty asset. Caleb Williams is rated as the best quarterback, not only in this class, but if you go back to last year's class and going forward to next year's class. So, unless that 26 first turns into Arch Manning, I don't see it on this one. Moving on to the next deal, also in that same league, we had K. Ripple dealing with Boss here, and he was able to acquire George Pickens in the 209 for Romeo Doubs, Marvin Mims, and the 309. So in this case, Ripple got the top asset in the deal in George Pickens. He also got the better draft pick in this deal to 209. And again, this is a shallow league, so I want to be getting the best asset in the deal. Boss added a little depth at wide receiver by getting two wide receivers, and I don't mind Romeo Doubs at all, honestly. And Marvin Mims definitely benefited from the Jeudy deal that happened yesterday. So it's not like it's terrible. However, if I break it down, Romeo Doubs and the 209 are pretty equal. And so then you're looking at Marvin Mims and the 309 for George Pickens. I'm definitely going to lead George Pickens, even if Arthur Smith is running the show. Next up, we have one final deal in that league, and this one had Boss acquiring Isaiah Pacheco back from Frosties, along with Jeudy, Michael Mayer, and Kendrick Bourne for T. Higgins, AJones, and Jahan Dotson. Now, this may have been a panic sell, getting rid of AJones. I do feel AJones is still going to land somewhere where he can perform. Maybe not as well as last year, but he may be able to get similar production to Isaiah Pacheco. So I don't want to say that those two equal each other out. Definitely Pacheco is younger. He definitely has more dynasty value. So in that part of it, I do lean Boss's way. But same token, Frosty's definitely got the best asset in this deal in T. Higgins. As far as, starters wise in your lineup, in your actual lineup, he got T. Higgins and AJones, whereas Boss just got Pacheco. Michael Mayer may turn into something, but that's the same thing we can say about Jahan Dotson, right? So those two are about equal. Kendrick Bourne, even though the Patriots decided to give him a bunch of money today, I don't really see him as of much use. And so if Jeudy blows up for Cleveland now, it could happen. All right. Amari Cooper's still there. So is Njoku. So it's kind of a loaded receiving room there in Cleveland, but Judy's still plenty young. He had a rough situation there in Denver, but at the same time, there's been other receivers that have had rough situations and still been able to produce. So I'm kind of tired of the excuses for Jeudy. We'll see how he does with Deshaun Watson. I think the time for excuses with Jeudy are up, and hopefully he's able to sort of resurrect his career in Cleveland. But at the same time, again, I kind of lean Frosties on this deal because T. Higgins is his best asset. And I've got one more final deal for you, and this one was in Dynasty Land, which is a 12-team Superflex tight end premium start 9 only. And in this deal, we had NLS 2K acquiring Jahmyr Gibbs, the 103, 203, and 304 for the 101, 111, and Deebo Samuel and that went to Chris Cash Money. So if we break this deal down, I want to kind of tier the draft picks up for you. And to be honest, the 101 and 103 are kind of in the similar tier. Now, the 101 obviously is worth more, all right? And then you can take the 111 and the 203. Those definitely are in the same tier. I would say one picks maybe 110 through the 203 or 204. They're roughly in the same tier as of now. So, and then you have Deebo Samuel in the mix of this deal as well. It's kind of odd that Chris Cash Money took on Deebo Samuel, considering he's in the middle of a major rebuild. I do understand wanting the 101 and the cachet of having that. He does need major assets, but he gave up Jahmyr Gibbs in this deal, and as well as the 103. I mean, in this deal, which came down to 4 assets for 3 assets, if I'm Chris Cash Money, I want to be the one getting the side with more assets. I'm the one that needs more draft picks, all right? He gave up more draft picks. Not that the 304 is worth a whole lot, but just, I mean, the 203 for the 111, that really is a wash. So to break it down, the 101 and Deebo for Jahmyr Gibbs and the 103, I do love NLS 2K's side of this. I can kind of understand Chris Cash Money's side, but I definitely lean NLS 2K on this one. So it's enough for trades. Let's get into a little wheeling dealing that some NFL teams did today, and there was a whole heck of a lot of it. And I think the NFL teams spoke loudly about how they feel about this year's NFL rookies running back class. I mean, there was just a bunch of running backs going this way and that. Saquon to the Eagles. Josh Jacobs to the Packers. They were moving all day long. You couldn't keep up with it. So, still have Derrick Henry out there. Joe Mixon just got released by the Bengals right after they signed Zach Moss for a couple-year deal. Calvin Ridley's still out there. So is Hollywood Brown. But I do want to mention the big winners from today. Definitely Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Now, if you took my advice from a few shows ago, and I've been harping on it for multiple shows, go buy Drake London if you can. And now that window is closed. Drake London could ascend to a top 10 dynasty wide receiver now. Kyle Pitts is back on the main stage. Kirk Cousins is everything those guys needed. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Falcons aren't done yet and they go out and add another wide receiver. Definitely wouldn't see that hurting either London or Pitts' value if they do go out and maybe bring Ridley back to Atlanta, maybe sign Hollywood Brown. Or they go ahead, they still have the 8th pick overall. Now they don't have to use it on a quarterback. Maybe they go wide receiver and land Roma Dunze, or even if Neighbors falls to them. How special would that be for Atlanta's offense? They are just loaded at the skill positions now, and they're ready for a high-flying season. Now, the losers of today definitely have to start with Justin Fields. I think that the community spoke loudly that the majority of the teams out there, even the ones without a very good quarterback situation, just don't see Justin Fields as the answer. Fields might end up in a quarterback battle in Seattle with Geno Smith. He could end up getting traded to Minnesota inside the division if the Bears decide to pull a Bill Belichick and send their starting quarterback to a team within the division just because they believe he's that bad. So I feel bad for you if you tried to trade for Justin Fields and pulled it off just days before this free agency period started. I just don't know what is really going to happen to Fields. Maybe he does end up staying with the Bears and the Bears get a haul for the 101, but it's really up in the air with Fields right now, and I think the Bears missed the boat. They should have gotten what they could for him months, if not days ago, and that window is closing. So there's not much time left to get rid of Fields here for the Bears. Another loser I see, and it's kind of sneaky, but the Patriots signed Antonio Gibson, and that will definitely eat into Ramondre Stevenson's work. Ramondre definitely had a down year last year based on what everybody had as expectations for him, but now Antonio Gibson will definitely eat into his receiving load. Don't know who the Patriots quarterback will be. They did sign Jacoby Brissett today. That went a little bit under the radar with all the bigger running back signings, but Brissett could definitely be the guy day one for the Patriots. Depends who they end up drafting. They right now currently hold the 103, but don't be surprised if they decide to grab a wide receiver there, like a Marvin Harrison. Maybe Marv's already taken, and they grab Neighbors. We'll see what the Patriots decide to do. Obviously, they could still just decide to go quarterback and have Brissett as the sort of veteran calling tone for that rookie. Now, I do want to mention that we'll have a show later this week to be able to talk about the more free agency signings that come our way, and I'm really excited to see what happens the rest of the way. Be sure to follow me at clemke007_FF on Twitter. And as always, never stop working.